Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Tucson-Pima County Historical Commission Plans Review Subcommittee meeting of Thursday, December 28th, 2023. Call to order at 1:01 p.m. And I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry Majewski is here. Savannah McDonald.
Here.
Ricky Riojas.
Here.
Jan Mulder.
Here.
Carol?
Here.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Joel Ireland.
Here.
Great. We have a full quorum at 6. Thank you. Item 2 is approval of the legal action report / minutes for the meeting of December 14th, 2023. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
This is Ricky. I motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Jan, I'll second.
Thank you. Is there discussion? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry votes aye. Savannah?
Aye.
Ricky?
Aye.
Jan?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Joel?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Passes unanimously 6-0. Thanks everyone for looking at that and getting it out. Okay, item 3 is historic preservation zone review cases that we review under UDC section 5.8/TSM 9-02.0.0 Historic District Design Guidelines and Revised Secretary of the Interior Standards and Guidelines. Case 3A is not here. Do I need to read that into the record, Jody?
You're kind of reading it into the record right now, aren't you?
Yeah, but the whole thing, I mean, just.
You can just note the address.
Okay. Case 3A, SD 0923-00099 at 728 East 4th Street is not present. So we'll either take them later if they come on or at another meeting. Okay, item 3B, TD-DEV 1123-00455, 200 North Court Avenue, TD-DEV 1123-00460, 101 North Stone Avenue, TD-DEV 1123-00461 at 177 North Church Avenue, TD-DEV 1123-00462 at 166 West Alameda, TD-DEV 1123-00463 at 310 West Alameda, TD-DEV 113-00464 at 325 North Church Avenue. This application is for the Rio Nuevo Activate El Presidio project. Addresses parcels listed are adjacent to the project sites. The project uses low impact activation principles and the Tucson Shared Spaces Manual for the design. There are 9 areas within the El Presidio neighborhood that are included in the project. It's a full review. It's in the El Presidio Historic Preservation Zone, and we've already seen this as a courtesy review. Jody, would you like to give us background?
Yes. So this project was heard on December 5th by the El Presidio Historic Zone Advisory Board. There's quite a bit of discussion. There was originally a discussion about continuing the project, but ultimately we decided to recommend approval of the project with some conditions. One, they want a regular 3-year maintenance plan to evaluate the project. They want to consider other materials for the planters. They want maintenance of plantings and scheduled examination of plantings and replacements as necessary. And they wanted to add an additional tree if possible. And it was approved 8-0.
Did they see where they wanted the additional tree at?
They did not.
I'm sorry. Okay, are we ready for the presentation?
I'm
Yes.
ready. If you all are, I can share my screen.
You should be able to, your co-host, bless you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amy Perone. I'm a landscape architect at Norris Design. Jason Kuklinski, a principal and landscape architect at Norris, is also on the call today. Like Jody said, we've been in front of your group previously reviewing this project, but we'll do a quick project overview and introduction since this is the more formal presentation. We'll go over kind of where we've been going into the design process, and then I'm happy to answer any questions on the design elements as we get into those. There we go. So the goal of Activate El Presidio is to activate the historic neighborhood, reinvigorating the vibrant district while preserving the rich heritage. The overarching goal is to use a lighter, quicker, cheaper approach. All of the elements are meant to be temporary. They can be moved at some point to other spaces downtown or within El Presidio if needed. And then with that, the concern that Jody mentioned from the El Presidio Historic Review about the maintenance period, that along with this evaluation per area to understand if these improvements have impacted the historical context or sense of place of the historic neighborhood. Evaluation is set to take place 3 years after implementation. And those two items, maintenance and this evaluation, is going to be written into the TRE agreements with the property owners and City of Tucson. Real quick, and at the first phase of this project, our team did a lot of site analysis. This slide is just one sheet of our site analysis that looked at tree canopy and stormwater patterns throughout the area. Most importantly from this slide, I wanted to point out the existing tree palette. There were a lot of desert trees, but also palms, olive trees, and eucalyptus within El Presidio, and so that did help us build our final plant palette. We also looked at existing materials and textures around El Presidio. There's a lot of brick, a lot of adobe brick, tile, lava rock, wood, and steel. Going back to the plant palette, we also saw a lot of cactus, more of our native low water use desert plants that we're used to seeing around downtown and around Tucson in general. So from that site analysis, we have our proposed plant palette with the desert trees, mesquites, and then the desert willow. Our shrubs and accents also pull from species viewed around the site or sites, including more cactus like the barrels, and then desert milkweeds and shrubs like brittlebush. Our materials are all pulled from those same observations. We're proposing wood and steel for the landscape containers. We have a couple features with the lava rock and adobe brick, the steel planters, and then out of the shared use manual draft, we need to use fiberglass containers, landscape containers, and so that bottom left image is a fiberglass container that looks more like the terracotta. We have site amenities, including benches. We have one steel bench and one wooden bench. examples of those are shown here. The steel bench won't be red, it will be more of a silver gray. We also have one area with the wrapped string lights wrapped around the trees. Another few areas with festoon lighting. And then the paint patterns proposed around the street corners are all shown graphically in the drawings currently. Living Streets Alliance will be detailing out what those patterns look like, the colors and the engineered drawings. But the concept for all of those paint patterns will point back to the dome at the county building or at the county courthouse, pull from those colors as well as the overall patterns. As mentioned, there are 9 sites within this overall project. The furthest north, number 9, is in front of El Charro, along Court going from Franklin to Council. And then we get into the JoJo's Presidio Museum and Tucson Museum of Art area, with areas 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 6. We're in front of Transamerica on Alameda and Church with 7, the library park on the corner of Alameda and Church on the southeast side, and then number 5 is tucked down on Alameda and Main. Jumping into each of these individual areas, number 1 is Court Avenue, which goes from Washington to Tejas. It's right in front of the Presidio Museum. On the right, there are some contextual images of what these sidewalks and streetscapes look like currently.
Hello.
The design for this space has some of those 5 foot by 5 foot wood and steel planters with the desert willows. We have a few more proposed bike racks in the northeast corner with the painted bump outs and landscape containers. In front of the Presidio Museum, we have a streetery, which is designed based off of the shared use manual. These will provide shade and seating for people as they're waiting to go to the museum, or maybe grabbing a coffee from Dandelion Cafe and walking down the block to enjoy the neighborhood. Steel benches are proposed in this area, and then the salvaged brick would be filling in some gaps between the sidewalk and buildings just to help with a little bit more accessibility in those tight spaces. Area 2 is Tejas Street. This goes from Meyer to Court. And again, here are some contextual images for Tejas currently. Design here is pretty similar to Court. A lot of paint on the street, paint on the sidewalk, really just brightening up the space and activating it in that way. This area does include some of those festoon lighting or festoon lights that I mentioned before, and we have an image later on that will help show you what this looks like. But because of the archaeological significance of this location, or El Presidio in general, we didn't want to include any footings or do anything that would require a lot of digging. So these festoon lights are built off of the existing parking meter poles. The idea here is to expand the parking meter poles up, attach festoon lighting to those, and then paid parking will be done using a kiosk. And we've been coordinating with City of Tucson and DTM on making that happen. We also have additional bike parking down on the northeast corner, or sorry, southeast corner of this site. There are no additional structures, shade or streeteries on Tejas. And nothing is attached to the buildings. That goes for all of the sites. Everything is freestanding or set off of the buildings. Washington Street, going from Meyer to Court. This is in front of JoJo's and Cirrus. This, or the contextual images here, you can see how there's already some string lights happening along Washington, and then the movable seating that's currently there. So the proposed design formalizes that a little bit more, creates some additional shade with those desert willows and the 5x5 planters. We include 3 different types of shade or streetery areas here along the south edge of Washington. Also included here, along with the street paint, are areas for games like cornhole or painted games on the ground like hopscotch. The image on the bottom left of the shade sail is gives you an idea of the type of shade structures we're proposing here. And then the light pole on the right with the festoon lighting is an example of what that extended parking meter lighting would look like.
Where would the shade sails be at in this picture?
They are the purple squares along the south edge.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. This sheet is our details of those shade structures, and just to give you a little bit of an idea with their side elevations and seating configurations, what these are going to start looking like. I'm happy to come back to that page later too, if anyone has questions on it specifically. Area 4 is on Alameda and Court. Again, looking across, the top image looks across the street into this space. So this is right in front of some of the Tucson Museum of Art buildings. Improvements in this area are pretty minor. There's paint along the sidewalks and a couple of the paint bump outs along the corners. The main improvement here is enhancing the existing landscape in the area, opening up the planters, or removing some of the brick and opening up the planters a little bit more to create more room for the vegetation, including seating elements. And then here we have a Presidio wayfinding column, which is the bottom middle image here. This one would be made from adobe brick and steel, just hoping to create an entryway or visual point to pull people into the Presidio neighborhood. Fifth area is on Alameda and Main. This is the furthest west area. Again, some context images looking into the site. Right now it's a lot of seating and some areas for trees are really the only thing planted out there right now. The proposed design again expands some of those landscape areas, enhances the landscape, making it a little bit more green, adjusting the seating slightly. There aren't any new benches that would be needed, just taking what's there and massaging it a little bit, and then adding landscape containers along the street edge. We also have one of the Presidio columns on the southeast side of this project site. Area 6 is Court Avenue. It's the Museum of Art entrance courtyard. Currently, there's some landscape areas, but not a whole lot of landscape in them. And then you can see into the courtyard spaces here a little bit. There's some very nice trees out there, so that will all be remaining. These trees, the existing ones in front of the museum, would be the ones to get the string light wrapped trunks like you see in that precedent image. The pedestrian or the brick pavers are all there currently, so nothing would change with those. However, we are proposing to take some of the salvage brick pavers from the other areas where we're expanding the landscape and putting them into or in front of the public art piece across Alameda to the west, to make that space a little bit more accessible and allow visitors to take their photos and enjoy that space. We'll also have seating in this space and add another couple of trees to help provide some more shade. As a part of another project, I think funded by City of Tucson, there's an idea to have some custom bike racks located in this spot as well. Similar to the custom ones you see out at the library that say read, these would be more focused on El Presidio. Area 7 is in front of the Transamerica building. This space has a lot of landscape and existing uses currently, a lot of seating. So this space too is pretty minimal in the enhancements. No new vegetation is proposed to the existing planters. We are proposing new landscape containers along the streetscape, along with some minimal paint along the edges, just to help tie this into rest of El Presidio and start creating that visual cohesiveness of these activation spaces. As mentioned last time, we are also proposing the light pole signage. There's a context image of that, or a precedent image of that on the bottom right-hand side of the slide. I don't think we had that image for you the last time we presented. Area 8 is the grass area by the library off of Church and Alameda. Those images, and then this space would be, we're proposing new mesquites, the Leslie Roy hybrid. This would also have some of the festoon lights and the light pole signage opportunity for wayfinding. As a future project, we're proposing that there's an opportunity for City High School to do some work with art pavers in this space, since they have the Adopt a Park agreement here. Area 9 is Court Avenue from Washington to Council, and in front of El Charro. Here are the existing photos of that space, and you can see here their little streetery in this area that's already existing. So the proposed design in this space is the paint at the corners, some sidewalk paint, and then additional landscape containers, both or all of them, the fiberglass, the steel, and then the steel and wood containers. We're also proposing the use of the extended parking meter poles and festoon lighting in this area. This is an image of Tejas currently, and we just wanted to show you a quick 3D rendering of what our proposed design looks like, or could look like with those improvements. So that's Tejas, and you can see here the streetery, the wood and steel paneling. The next rendering we have is of Tejas. There's Tejas without the improvements, and then with the proposed improvements. In this image, you can see that festoon lighting and those extended poles and what we're envisioning for that space. I will note that this rendering does show paint going across the street, and that's no longer being proposed. So those bands going across the street won't happen. That is all of the material we have to present. I'm happy to flip back to anything or go into more detail. I think I went through some of those spaces pretty quickly, so happy to provide more information if needed.
Thank you, Amy. Commissioners, do you have questions, comments, discussion? Who would like to start?
I'll start. I guess my first question was, does this go to Historic Landscapes Subcommittee?
It did go to Historic Landscape Subcommittee when they came through for their courtesy reviews.
It was, like, it was pretty,
Yeah.
pretty undeveloped at that point. I feel like
It should go, really.
it's more, there's a lot more here
Yeah.
than what we didn't see any, I mean, there's a lot.
There was a fair amount of information that was provided to the Historic Landscape Subcommittee. I mean, you're saying you wanted to go back to them?
It really should.
I mean,
It seems like it's more plants than anything.
Well, and it affects the streetscape.
It affected the streetscape before. I mean,
Well, but there wasn't as much specificity about what's happening to the sidewalks, encroachments, anything else.
Did the landscape subcommittee, when they last saw it, did they have anything to say about the, like, I don't wanna watch it, look on Deas, how that extends out to essentially what is now a one-way street instead of a two-way street?
I would pull up the minutes from it. Do you remember seeing?
I don't think it was in our packet, was it?
this presentation was not available to us
Yeah.
previously either, so it's kind of the first time we've seen.
There's like a
renderings.
presentation bullet point, but if you click on it, it's just a list of all the properties
Yeah.
and not the actual presentation.
Okay, so if you wanted to go to the Historic Landscape Subcommittee, then it would be something that would be in your motion. And whether or not you want them to come back to you after they do this.
I think it should go to them and come back to us, just out of form.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they would have comments on this.
Yeah.
And a perspective that we don't know. Okay, well, that's just what I was, the first thing that came to my mind. The second was, well, there's a few. There was a comment about removing brick pavers and using salvaged ones in some of the features. Exactly, are brick pavers being demolished that are existing?
Yeah, so there's not many, let me flip back to that slide. There's an area in front of the museum where it's not a lot, it just a little bit are being removed to bump out the landscape a little bit more. to create additional landscape area, so it's around this edge.
Do you,
Um,
do you have a view of what that is existing? I have a hard time understanding the quantity of that removal. Give a before image.
I can pull up,
So there's, I guess what I'm asking is, there's already planters there and you're expanding them? a little?
correct.
Okay, the shade cell structures, I had a couple questions about those. Those are not permanent, right?
Correct, so
So they have no
Sorry.
foundations, or how are they attached and resist wind load and all that, which is significant with shade sails?
yeah, so we've been using the City of Tucson draft shared use guide for how the streeteries should be designed, like the ones you've seen on, or you may have seen on Congress or other places downtown. So they don't have foundations. They sit on top of the asphalt.
Okay. What about these Presidio columns? They didn't look like they had any reinforcing or foundations envisioned to
Those
be.
will have foundations.
Oh, I didn't see that in the details. It looked like a 4-inch basically pad.
They're not extremely deep foundations, but they do have foundations.
But no,
we can show
are
that
they
detail.
reinforced masonry? I didn't see any steel in them either. Sorry, I'm being too technical. It just doesn't, it seems like it'll just fall apart.
No, that's okay. I'd have to look back at our detail. I want to say we have rebar in them, but I don't want to tell you the wrong thing.
So like the last couple pages of plans, it just looks like 4-inch, which is just to like, it doesn't even sit below the asphalt much. But they're.
Yeah, I mean, they aren't deep. They aren't deep just because of the archaeological significance and not wanting to get too.
Yeah, I mean, they're
deep.
5 or 6 feet high, is that right?
Those shade structures?
The Presidio columns. Is that, are they 5 or 6? How tall are they? It's hard for me to read.
Give me just a moment. They're 6 feet tall.
All right, I'm just noting concerns. I guess that's probably that one.
No, thank you for the concerns. We will take a look at those.
And then I was curious about the light poles, with are they in the sidewalk or the street? I couldn't quite tell where they were actually located.
The light poles will be on the curb, so they're the existing parking meters. So the only places that those poles happen is where there's an existing parking meter.
Okay, so like, and they don't lock the sidewalk, is there, I guess is what-
No, no.
Okay. So would they replace the meters, or are they just in the same plane?
We're working with the Department of Transportation and Mobility to get those meters turned into a kiosk. So they'll go out and replace it with a pay kiosk.
And then you called it like festoon lighting, it's all unshielded light, right? Does it meet the outdoor lighting code, I guess is what I'm trying to figure out, or is it just special events only?
No, it will meet the outdoor lighting code, and those have shields on the top that we can get to ensure that it meets code.
Is it in there right now? Do you have the shields, or is that a change you would have to make?
I believe in the construction drawings, we called them out to have the shields, but I'll make a note to confirm that.
But are they on every night?
I
Or is it
think
just like
that
a
is the plan currently. But again, I think that would be up to Rio Nuevo in the TRE agreements. It's just ambient lighting, similar to what you would, see downtown. Washington currently has festoon lighting. I don't know if those lights are on all the time or just special events.
Those ones they have on all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my last note is there's steel frames for art panels in the details. I couldn't quite tell. Is that just like an artist that will come in and provide design for those panels? Do we have a sense of what they'll look like or who the artist is or anything like that?
We don't, but yes, that would be the intent, was for an artist to come in and design those panels. And the idea of those two is, with the temporary nature, that those could be switched out, so it could be a rotating
Oh, okay.
artist panel spot.
Sorry, there was just the comments from Presidio that I wanted to ask about. Oh, they had request to consider other materials for planter. Do you know what exactly they were looking for when they made that request?
They weren't, they just didn't want them to be kind of flimsy. They wanted them to be a little bit sturdier. We're looking for if we can do alternatives to the fiberglass, but part of the shared use space manual and the reason why DTM requires that type of material for the planters is I think traffic related. I think if something were to happen, the fiberglass would break, and there's safety
They were
for
concerned.
that material. Safety
Yeah,
concerns.
so but there's the wood panel and steel ones too, right? You kind of have both, and were they okay with the wood and steel ones?
They were, their main concern was just with the fiberglass, and those, the materiality for those are important because they come out into the painted corners of the street. So they have to be a specific material.
It sounds like a technical standard detail. I don't see how they can,
Yeah.
I don't see how you could make that, how you could accommodate that request if that is a requirement. So that was something I was curious about. And then they wanted to add a tree. Do you remember from that meeting where they were thinking of adding a tree?
They wanted to look at an alternative to the desert willow. So I don't think it was about adding a tree as much as just changing out the species from the desert willow, was my understanding.
They just they don't like that tree. Do you know
Yeah,
why?
they wanted something that would produce a little bit more shade.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
and where do all the where do you have the desert willows generally?
They are in the 5 foot by 5 foot containers on Tejas and Court, anywhere where we have the 5 by 5 containers, like
Okay.
in this space. Generally, are where most of them are at.
That's definitely a start point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my next question would be like, what if you wanted to accommodate that request, what tree would it be? But I also wouldn't be able to have an opinion on it either, so.
But you might want to think about it for going back to historic landscape.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, and they may have some fun ideas.
I mean, it's, the desert willow doesn't get enormous, right? So maybe that is one reason why it's selected.
Well,
Right.
it was selected because it doesn't get enormous, just being in that type of container. We can't have anything too big because
Yeah.
the container couldn't hold it, right? The desert willow is also low water use, so that helps with not only establishment, but long-term.
How are these gonna be watered? Are you connecting them to a watering system?
Part of the TRE agreement is maintenance. And so there's maintenance budget to make sure everything gets watered and maintained.
Gonna be manually watering them?
Truck drives around.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
They're just gonna be manually watering all of them?
Correct.
Just to provide some reference, I'm Ben Elias, I'm with the Department of Transportation and Mobility. We've done similar streetscape work where we're bumping out into the curb, like on South Fourth Avenue near the Children's Museum. And we've entered into an agreement, because that's a project that we've done in partnership with Living Streets Alliance, to come up with a maintenance agreement. In that case, it's with Tucson Downtown, or Downtown Tucson Partnership, so they have staff go around two or three times a week to hand water those. It's pretty standard for standard practice for some of our roadway projects to get plants established.
This is Carol. I guess I would really question the choice of a desert willow then. It is a desert plant, but it's a riparian plant. And so if you're going to put it in a pot and you're only going to hand water it, I'm not sure how successful that's going to be. It is a small tree. It does tend to want a bush, but it's not really a very good choice for a pot or an area that doesn't get a lot of water. And I know in our community we have them, and they're in the ground on an irrigation system, and we've had a lot of problems keeping them alive. Just a note.
We're happy to look at alternatives for the desert willow.
Someone else wants to, I'm done with my list.
I had another question about Alameda and Court over there by the museum. On that, so it looks like you're gonna be expanding that planter out on the sorry, I'm trying to zoom in. On the westernmost side by 9 feet. How much walkway is there at that point? 'Cause it looks like there's another bench out there and it significantly reduces the amount of sidewalk that people have in that area.
I believe there should still be 6 feet minimum.
Okay. So that's the minimum that's maintained throughout all of that?
Yes.
You're talking about like that corner way down there, it looks a
Yeah.
little tight.
Yeah.
It's like maybe barely 6 feet.
We'll make a note to go back to that space.
I just wanna make sure that people who have like accessibility issues are able to comfortably get through there without having to go onto Alameda.
Absolutely.
And then over off, there's one more. Off of Tejas, that expansion into the street, is that street gonna end up being a one-way street, or is the intention there still to have it be like a two-way? It's over, like you have a couple extensions in that area, like over there on Meyer as well, where it looks like it's gonna affect the ability to drive through there.
So it will remain a two-way street. The expansion that you're seeing there doesn't extend past the current parallel parking areas. So it doesn't take away any width that isn't, or that's there currently.
Okay. And are there any other parking alternatives that the city is thinking of introducing in this area if they're gonna be reducing parking?
No, we're not reducing parking by much. I think throughout all of these areas, we might be losing a total of 3 spaces, 2 or 3 spaces. So
Oh,
overall number of parking spots is staying the same.
it looked like it was more than that. And do you happen to know how tall the buildings where the stage structures on Washington are, how tall those buildings are? Just for comparison of shade structured building.
I do not know off the top of my head how tall those are.
Jen, did you read?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, done for now.
Yeah, just, probably my primary comment or concern is related to what Ricky said about sidewalk access. Just confirming that you have the minimum everywhere. But then also, there are a lot of sidewalks in town with funky minimums where you get 6, then you take a hard turn and then there's 6 and it's like, so yes, technically somebody can navigate it. But it's really, if you're trying to activate the space and make it welcoming, then it truly should be open and not making people kind of go through a course. Does that make sense?
It does.
That you've got continuous, and related to that, the streeteries, are they all in the street or are some taking sidewalk space?
They are completely in the street.
And none of these improvements are shunting the pedestrians into the street, like some of the ones on Broadway?
No.
Okay, and then the painting on the sidewalk, what was the thinking on that? And then I see some of them say it's a separate permit for the sidewalk permit painting.
So all the painting, sidewalk and asphalt painting is being taken over by Living Streets Alliance. And so they'll be working with an engineer to provide the required engineered permit drawings for those spaces and then what the ultimate pattern and colors will be.
Well, when that goes to historic landscapes, that should be included.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Wait, so the paint colors aren't picked out?
And the design, it doesn't, it sounds like it's just kind of.
The-
So Amy could show the designs are all from the dome. It was the specifics of size on the ground is what Living Streets Alliance is showing. We were under the impression that if this development package with the approvals, Living Streets Alliance is really just sizing it. Those designs match already, like what you see in the corner there is.
Okay, and the locations,
Yeah, and
so
the
if
color.
you take all those as a plan set, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And what's your name? And my name's Steven, just project manager on this project.
okay,
Addison. Steven Addison.
So that'll come back through here, the colors and all that.
We were under the impression it would just be a right of way permit and not need to go through another review, only because the specifics, like what you see there is what you would see on their design as well, just because of the like the sizing is gonna be challenging to show on this design, on the development package.
Yeah. Was there a reason that, like, so is it these designs, is there a reason that these designs were chosen? I mean, they're not like particularly historic to the neighborhood.
that's why I'm saying that it's good about landscape subcommittee should really look
Yeah.
at these.
And I would say the colors too, I mean, I know it's just paint, but I've seen the green and it's, you know, it's just, I think it's hard to visualize it exactly.
The colors here on the left-hand side are just graphical representations. They're not the colors. So the colors of the paint will be coming off of the dome.
Well, it'd still be helpful to kind of know what's in mind. Because it does affect the streetscape and the overall presence.
Yeah, I mean,
Is the intention then still to have like a solid color background, like maybe it wouldn't be blue triangles, but it would just be a different color background with triangles on it? Like that?
Yeah, so the proposed patterns are on the right. So you have a more triangular one, diamond and squares. And then the colors of the diamonds, the squares, the triangles would come from the dome.
Okay.
And this is both asphalt and concrete?
Correct.
Is there any preparation to, I mean, some of these places are pretty rough, especially the concrete and asphalt at those corners. There's no, I think I asked this last time, there's no improvement to that substrate for this to accept this paint?
There won't be asphalt or concrete improvements, but I believe the Living Streets Alliance processes, they come in with a white coat of paint, and then paint on the colored paint goes on top of that.
Is the paint included in your maintenance plan? Cause I know it tends to wear pretty fast in Arizona.
It is not part of the maintenance plan. The paint on the corners of, I think it's 6th and University, I believe has been there for about 3 years. So that's something that would be looked at, I think, during that sunset date. So 3 years after installation, but that may give you an idea of what the paint may look like in 3 years.
I just would ask if to the extent you can figure out what's going on as part of your discussion with historic landscapes, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
This is Caroline, kind of following up on the one question, you know, about maintaining the paint. Some of it's going to be in the street. That street is, or several of those streets are in kind of bad condition. I mean, they look like they need new asphalt. You know, if you're going to be painting, it would be nice if the streets could have improvement on them, new asphalt before the paint goes down, because if they go ahead and have to repair them later, that's just gonna require repainting. You know, I'm just wondering about coordination of some of that.
Okay, so Joel, do you have any questions?
No, everybody fairly well covered what my concerns were, yeah.
Okay, I have a question for Jody. Jody, have you ever reviewed this Tucson Direct Shared Use Guide to see if it affects historic properties? Have you ever been asked to look at that?
Ask that question again, I'm sorry.
Okay, have you ever looked at this Direct Shared Use Guide to see if it meshes with what needs to be done with historic properties?
I have not, nor have I been asked to.
Okay, and then secondly, do we have any idea? I'm sure that these less expensive, whatever they're called, you know, uplifting projects are going on in other cities as well. It might be worth, I know we don't have to ask SHPO about this, but I think if you just said, SHPO, if you had any issues with this and any thoughts, because I just think that there's a lot to keep track of, many different, it seems like a lot of different departments are working on this that may not have the historic expertise to know that there could be issues, and they're not asking you. Does that make sense?
For the most part, it's DTM working on this. We have been involved, I've been involved in some of the other projects that aren't within HPC necessarily. There are projects like this happening pretty commonly in other cities. I haven't had a conversation with SHPO about it, but I can broach the topic with them and see what their thoughts are.
I'm just curious, because for me, it seems like there's a fine line with sort of, you know, a post-historic view of what prettying something up is or activating something. And I'm curious about if there's any, is it only historic districts that they're targeting here, or could they bless other neighborhoods with this, possibly?
I don't, it's just historic districts.
They just did that one in like Corbett, which is outside the district.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was that?
It went down by the Corbett building,
Mhm.
like 7th, 6th or something.
That's gone now.
No, that's a new one.
Seventh Street, Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
So I'll check with SHPO and see what their thoughts are and get back to you.
But Terry's comment about reviewing the standards and also having a discussion with DTM, because there's a lot of stuff that went up during COVID
Yeah,
that just stinks. I mean, in terms of pedestrian use, so
Yeah,
it's really
If
awful.
I can comment on
Yeah,
that briefly. I think we would welcome any review comments or really conditions that could be baked into that design manual from the
To inform it in advance.
the historic perspective. It was a COVID era program that like really was aimed to be a lifeline for a lot of bars and restaurants to stay afloat. But not in Tucson, but in cities across North America, we've noticed accessibility being the main concern for, we'll say, projects that happen in the public right of way. Specifically, we're trying to target those existing patio expansions or streeteries that did not address accessibility concerns and were instead routing pedestrians down into the street, into the parking lane. We removed those. We're taking legal action against those folks, and those will not be able to remain past December 31st this year. So those folks that have existing streeteries in the right of way need to come back before we review redesign of entering their base.
like Elliot's, which
Elliot's-
you into the street
Elliot's
is
and
gone.
Hanka too,
Yeah, so Elliot's is
Yeah.
gone, but Elliot's I know is coming back through.
but they're gonna redo it.
Everything
Hanka
will,
turn.
it won't be in the side,
Yeah.
it won't be on the sidewalk, it'll be in the parking lane
Yeah,
exclusive.
so they'll put the streetery in the parking lane, the sidewalk can go straight.
They have to maintain at least that 6 foot.
like El
pedestrian
Charro.
walkway.
Is El Char, theirs is out in the street.
It would,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's several that, and you took that awning thing off of Hermanos.
Yeah.
I don't know, these shade structures just. We usually are critical about structures going up next to buildings, and these are considered temporary, but they're still pretty tall structures next to buildings.
3 years, maybe longer.
Taking up, I'm also always worried of calling things temporary projects, cause I think once they're up, it's easy to keep them up versus. Realistically, where is the city gonna move all these plants?
The
Like-
temporary fence at TCC is a perfect example, it was
Yeah.
removed for 1 month,
And it's there all the
summer
time,
before last.
Yeah.
That's-
it's a permanent fence now, they're
Is
not.
that the one
taking
you
it-
reviewed, like?
Yeah.
And we were resisting it, it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, it's temporary, we'll take it in and out.
And it's still there.
Yeah, and they're supposed to take it down if there's 2 weeks between every event, it's always up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just my concern is like, especially with the shade structures and the other things that are going directly up against buildings, just making sure that there's still a view of the buildings in case these do end up becoming permanent structures. What's my comment on that?
Does that include, I mean, does that take into account the fact that there's the sidewalk between them? Cause they're not, the structures aren't right up next to the building, right?
That sidewalk isn't particularly large though,
No.
it's like. It's like 2 people wide. I don't think, I'm trying to find a picture that lists the actual footage of the,
Yeah, I'd be surprised if some of these.
Sidewalk.
6 feet.
It's the obstruction, the visual obstruction of the view of the building that I think that we're concerned about.
Okay.
You know, if it's a temporary thing, that's a reversible temporary thing that, you know, if it's something that's going to be there for a long time, then it needs to be something that's a little more transparent or I know the picture you had of that shade structure with the shade cloth or the awning. I mean, that really would really block a view of a building.
Okay, commissioners, let me just ask you this before we decide how we're moving forward. So we said we wanted to go to Historic Landscape Subcommittee, but would we continue this and have it go there and then come back with their feedback? Or, what if they have conflicting remarks or things that we would want to see? What are your thoughts on that?
I guess I would like to know, maybe we could revisit what they last saw and what their comments were. And what's changed since, that might help inform. It's very little it seems to me that, this is more resolved than I remember seeing it last, but I could be wrong. And they did actually review all the plans and everything.
So they saw it August. Mr. Stevie, who was the dude before, but has since left, son Chris Stevie, communicated that there's been community outreach and a draft report at this time, but this is a courtesy review, as there are a lot of design decisions still to be made. The proposed project is in the Upper City Historic District, sponsored by Rio Grande to further activate commercial and community activity. The design is intended to only be temporary installation, although the sunset date is not provided. It will not physically impact the historic structures. The color palette is based on the historic courthouse dome tile. Commissioner Greedy discussed the importance of historic streetscapes as the setting for structures within historic districts. Larger elements such as 5x5 planters with trees and the proposed shade structures will not only impact the historic streetscape, but also the visibility of historic structures. He suggested referencing historic streetscape photos for character defining features and for inspiration. The seating area with masonry seat walls and shade structures is of particular concern. Commissioner Erickson suggested that bollards are a visual intrusion and asked if the paint alone could create the spaces. The locations of the parking kiosks could impact the view sheds of the historic structures. Mr. Stevie explained that the public art murals attached to the structures are outside the scope of this project and have another review process. She commented that the provision of artistic renderings were particularly useful to communicating the design for the review process. Mr. Stevie spoke about the possibility of having an elevation point where the project would be reviewed possibly in 3 years. Commissioner Lamb commented that creating spaces that encourage people to stay, linger, and enjoy historic spaces is important, but stressed the importance of the opinions of the residents of the historic district who may well be concerned about gentrification.
And it is a gentrification project. That neighborhood's
Were
pretty
there-
much gentrified.
Were there planting plans and everything then? They didn't have any comments on
Did they have plans to make it that
it?
small?
Just a courtesy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't send it back, I mean.
That's fine, I could
Schedule
send it, yeah, I
meetings
could-
as needed, and then we can see it as soon as possible again.
When does landscaping meet?
They meet
As needed.
as
Oh, it's
needed,
needed?
yeah.
She tells Steve checks in with everybody. You know.
They don't, so it's not, they don't have enough to review on a regular basis.
Correct. But he's been pretty responsive.
Yeah. So
And then Jody, you would let Steve know that we'd like them to hear it again?
yes, that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah,
Probably not.
okay, but then we can,
The
they have a
mason
mental health.
seating he's talking about, is that still?
I'm sorry?
The masonry seating, you mentioned something about masonry walls and seating.
So that's still.
Is that still part of the project?
Yeah, the seating area with masonry seat walls and shade structures is a particular concern.
That's that same street that we've been talking
The
about.
area between the museum, site, sorry, not site 2, site 6.
Terry, can you hear us okay when we're talking?
Yeah, it's just that I'm really
Thanks.
confused, so I think it's making me hard to hear.
So
I think this might be what he's talking about.
Where's the seating, sorry?
There's modular seating, I mean, there's trees.
under
Oh,
their trees.
Oh, and those are like masonry.
it's like blocks that are going in?
Those are existing or new?
No, they're not.
Proposed. They'd be new.
Hard time telling what those look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell.
I
So-
don't know that I have pictures of those in this presentation.
So it sounds like you have concerns about some of the shade cells as I was listening in, and now the masonry seating.
I'm okay with the masonry seat.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It's fine. It just would be nice to know what it looks like, because it's just, it's prominent in that view.
So I would suggest, cause it sounds like you're moving in this direction anyways, when you continue them, and one of your conditions is they go to the Historic Landscape Subcommittee, that you also ask for those other items, like a mock-up of what the masonry seating will look like. And other concerns that you may have, the shade cells and what have you.
Would it be unreasonable to request landscapes get back to us by the January 25th meeting?
I can't speak to their schedule, cause I don't know, he's pretty good about reaching out to everybody and getting a quorum as soon as he can. So he's usually, like 2 weeks out or something like that.
I just don't wanna make it a longer process for everyone involved
Yeah.
than it has to be, if we're already talking about extending it.
I mean, so we can shoot for that, I'll let him know that we'd like to put them on the,
Yeah.
latter January PRS agenda, so he knows. I mean, how many people are on there right now? So how many people do you need for,
Me, Steve, JJ, yeah, there were some others, but.
So you just need 3 people.
Jeff, me.
so even if it's 5 or 4, you just need 3 people for a
I
quorum.
don't know the 0, that's good. They have
Yeah.
continuity. Okay. So-
So my stuff.
Okay.
I go for that.
It's
I don't do the
just-
agenda.
Who does it?
Steve does the agenda. So Steve, the Zoom invite, he'll send it to me, I'll send it to you. But I'll be there.
So the meeting you mentioned though is not the next meeting, the meeting
It's
after
the-
that.
Yeah, our next meeting is the 11th, but I feel like that's too soon to expect them to be in.
Well, especially if we're asking for more information, I think the limiting factor is gonna be getting more information from these, or from you or from you guys versus us and Steve. Yeah.
I feel like a month was more realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's whether or not, I mean, I'll let him know, I would suggest maybe you don't have a date certain in your motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that
We
ties
can
you down
control that.
and ties them down if there's something that happens, so I'll let Steve know that that's what we're shooting for, but I would not put that in your motion.
Okay, so do we have an idea of what things we'd like more information on? For whoever's going to make the motion to continue and hear it again after it's been referred to Historic Landscapes.
So we need more information on what the masonry seats will look like. What colors will be used for painting?
Yeah, it sounds like that might
Colors
be
and
later
patterns.
though.
Well, to the extent, I mean, if you know the colors are being taken from the courthouse and they're not these kind of more primary fun colors, it'd be good to know, I mean.
Isn't the courthouse like blues and greens? Pretty bright.
They're a
It's
little
very
more
bright.
bright,
I think
so it'd be
that's
good to know.
maybe a
what
little bit of a
they're taking.
concern.
I believe that's in slide, Amy, is that on slide 2 or 3, those
She
street
said
paint
those
colors?
weren't real,
Or is that in the,
she said those are just placeholders.
but we have the, yeah,
And then it's not even clear, like,
might be in the.
are you doing?
Is that what this is? This is all.
Is that the slide you were looking for, Stephen?
Yeah, it's like primary colors,
Yeah.
green, yellow, and blue on the courthouse.
It's more, LSA is deciding on, like, that's the pattern, it's just we don't know if those squares need to be 4 inches, 3.5.
Okay, but you're matching the color exactly,
Yes.
you're changing the scale.
Yes.
Okay, so we know the colors.
So how, go to the,
I think it's in the,
It's page 2 of the.
page 2.
I just.
Of the presentation document?
Of the DP.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, did we have that?
What's that?
Did we have that?
We have this, but.
Oh, this is
I
what
didn't
we
have
have.
that.
Yeah,
This is a DP set.
Oh, that looks different. So where it says hatch, you're doing something where it like, more like where it says character?
Wherever it's green is that pattern, wherever it's yellow is that pattern, wherever it's blue.
Yeah, so you're not really doing the blue with the
No,
triangle.
those are,
Okay,
those are just placeholders.
got it.
Sorry about that.
Somehow I missed that in the plans that I didn't see it. Yeah, so if that goes to historic landscapes, if they see that. So the locations on the plans are set, and there are these designs character, where it says character.
Yes, yep.
Okay,
Well, Jan, you're on historic landscapes, correct? So you can bring up some of these things that we've discussed here that are
Right.
relevant to them. Yeah.
I just somehow missed this little legend thing here in the plans we saw.
Okay, so are there any other things we would like them to bring back more detail on when they come back to us?
I think it was just the shade sail structures.
Yeah.
And content relative to the buildings they're next to.
Yeah, could you make the motion, Savannah?
I see Ricky furiously typing
Yeah,
something,
she's like.
so.
Old school scribbling away.
She's
Okay,
got
Ricky.
a script going.
Let's just be sure we get everything at once because we had some confusing motions last time. I
Yeah,
don't know if that would
Well,
do
so
it.
I'm writing it down, yeah, so I have, it has to go to historic landscapes and then come back to us. To have them consider using a tree that's alternate, a tree of the desert willow, to improve the asphalt before putting down paint on the asphalt and cement. Before putting paint down on those areas, to have the side representation. A representation of the shade sail structures relative to the size of the buildings. What the masonry seats will look like.
In terms of the trees, going back to historic landscapes, I'd just say, if, do they see a valid substitute to the desert willow? And if so, what would it be, or something like that versus, because it may be, that's really for that application.
Can we request a recommendation from historic landscapes tree? You want to do that?
If they think there's a better one, but if they don't.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay, and be sure you mention that to continue the case.
Yeah,
Okay, is that it? Are we ready for the motion?
do I really have to read those 1,000,001 different TD-DEV things?
Yes.
Do you?
Oh, come on.
Are you being sarcastic?
She just wants us to feel her pain.
Michael, I'll email you the motion, okay, so, on the are we ready to vote?
Do the address.
Yeah.
Okay, on the matter of item 3B, which includes 200 North Court, 101 North Stone, 177 North Church, 166 West Alameda, 310 West Alameda, and 325 North Church Avenue. I recommend to continue the case, that it should go to Historic Landscape Subcommittee and then come back to PRS. I'd like to consider using an alternate tree, a tree that's alternate of the desert willow, improvement of the asphalt and cement before putting down paint on those areas, a visual representation of the shade sail structures relative to the size of the buildings and a representation of what the masonry seats will look like. And we'd also like to request historic landscapes look at the desert willow, and if they think a better tree, if they think there should be a better tree, recommending a better tree. That's a weird way to phrase that. Yeah. It's in there.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Who's that, Savannah? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry says aye. Ricky,
Aye.
Jan,
Aye.
Savannah,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. 6-1, or 6-0, I'm sorry. Any questions from the applicant? I'm sure Jody will stay in touch with you about the scheduling of the other meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone. Okay. Jody, did 3A show up?
He did, and you'll have to give me a minute to get his stuff loaded. So you guys are done. You can either stay here and we can go. Let's go.
Thank you, everyone.
West University.
Okay, Jody. Back. I'll be right back.
You need to go out back there though.
Thanks, y'all.
Happy New Year.
Is there a reason 3A was uploaded as like a different link?
Let's make it really hard to review. So here's my plan, whatever it's called, plan grade.
Yeah.
Just sort of stuff on base.
I hate copies.
Try to scroll and then it's just confuses.
These are the
So
stuff.
here's a question. I've asked you this about printing again before. So sometimes they print backwards. They're fine on screen, but then you print it. Like I don't print everything, but like the overview for the one we just saw, to be able to walk down there and say, oh, this street, this street, this street, this street. And it's backwards. So I got this little mirror thing where I'm like, okay.
I don't understand that.
It does this pretty regularly, and it's like, oh, okay. And I was walking with my husband and I'm like, no. It's like,
Hold it, you just have to bring a mirror with you. And then like,
Get
hold the mirror and try to look at the mirror first.
scaling.
Brent, Brent is on the phone, Brent is the architect. And I'm gonna be doing the slideshow and he's gonna talk through it. Terry, can you remind me again how to tell Brent to unmute on the phone? Is it
Star 6.
*6? Hey Brent, do you hear that? You need to push *6 on your phone to unmute.
You said earlier, but I thought maybe.
Nope, you're still muted. Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
So,
Go ahead and call this case again.
What's that?
Jody, should I go ahead and call the case again?
yes,
Yes, we're moving back then to 3A because the applicant showed up. This is SD 0923-00099 at 728 East 4th Street to replace windows and restucco the exterior. It's a full review in the West University Historic Preservation Zone. And we use it's a contributing resource. We use the rehabilitation standards. Jody, do you have background on this before Brett presents?
yes, this project. This project was heard by West University Historic Zone Advisory Board on November 21st. And it was there was a motion to approve the project as presented for the windows and stucco replacement Windows will be replaced like for like. Any and all windows that are not original to the home shall be replaced to conform to the original historic guidelines. And it was approved by a vote of 5-0. Why can't I get that thing to go? And Brent is the architect and he is here to discuss, but why can't I get the stupid part?
Great, well, go
I'm
ahead.
here.
Go ahead.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, okay. So yeah, now the house, as it stands now, has some windows plyboarded in, because the owner had tried to replace them, but the replacement windows weren't cutting it. So he got stopped on that. It's at that point he hired me. So there are windows in there now that will be coming out. They're some kind of cheap something or other that he must have found at Window Depot, and you know, they'll be coming out and we'll be doing it right. We'll be going with Pella, and they have a historic line of windows. Now, they don't exactly have a sample that I could take a picture or show you because they're going to be custom made to size. So you don't really get samples. I mean, they have to custom make it, but they do have some information which I have already previously provided on this historic window line. Long and short of it is pine wood is probably what will be used, but they have other wood options as well. The exterior casing of the cladding of the windows will not be vinyl or metal as they do it today. It'll be wood, which will require exterior grade oil-based paint to paint them. They'll be painted to match the historic color, which is a brick red. So that's how the vendor Pella Windows provides this historic line of windows. They provide their wood, and it's up to the owner to maintain them and paint them, which of course is the case when you have these old historic windows. Of course, most of them are hand glazed. Back in those days, they didn't have custom. And that's another reason we're going with custom sizes, because back in the day when they would hand glaze these windows, of course, they were all single pane. They're grossly energy inefficient, but because they're hand glazed, you know, whatever the workmen on site come up with is what the size is. So you can't replace that with standard sizes. So all the windows will be custom done to match what was there. And of course, the house is going to get a stucco update. Nothing different. It's going to be done to match what's existing, but the stucco in some places is dilapidated, and more than in some places, like in a lot. So the house just needs to have it all removed down to the substrate. If a substrate moisture barrier paper or anything needs to be replaced, so be it. Otherwise, it will be scratch and brown coated anew, and then a final coat new with paint to match the existing. No change in any colors. And that is the scope of the project for that house. Nothing that affects the street view, such as any work being done. You know, we're not going to damage landscaping or change any landscape or hardscape. Nothing's being added or taken away at the street view near the sidewalk. No interruption to utilities, and we're not going to be, I don't know if there's any archaeological significance that may exist around that dwelling, but it won't be interrupted nonetheless. So no foundation work is necessary on this project. So that's the scope of it.
okay. Commissioners, do you have questions? I'm going to ask you to start. Is this a zoning violation, Jody?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I forgot to put that on the agenda. My apologies.
We left that on the agenda. Okay,
This is Jan, can I?
go ahead.
Yeah. So I noticed that, as you said, there are some windows that are in place that are not even sized to the openings. But when West University looked at it, that there was discussion of replacing like for like. And then on the materials that were submitted, I saw you were installing 7 casement windows, 3 double hung, 2 fixed. And I guess I did see quite a few vinyl casement casement windows, but I guess I question whether those casement windows reflect what was originally in the house. And so I guess what I'm trying to clarify is what does like for like mean? And can you go back and actually provide windows that reflect the historic nature of the house as it originally was?
Okay, so as far as concerns that, now, when you look at photos of the house, the easiest way to see which ones were the botched replacements and which ones are the original is the originals all have red, like a brick red paint, and the ones that are this glaringly ugly white color are the ones that need to come back out. Now, as far as replacing light for light on the window patterns, that is every bit the intention, and the windows will be designed to do that. Now, as far as the different operable options, some windows are fixed, some are casement, and some are double hung. Just as soon go with all casement, but the reason some are double hung is because that's actually what was there. And the reason some are casement is because that actually makes sense to provide the operable window minimum requirements for emergency egress. There are certain requirements that city building code wants for the windows to, sill heights have to be no higher than a certain height off the finished floor elevation. And there's a minimum square foot of opening area that the windows must provide. So that would be the reasoning behind the different windows, whether they're fixed, whether they're casement, or whether they're double hung. Now, the closest, most of the windows that I was able to do would prefer to be double hung, as reflects what's there. In a couple of cases, casement made sense for the functionality, but the lights, the arrangement of lights, the number of individual panes will be done to match the existing.
Okay, I guess what I thought I saw along the sides were windows that were sliders, vinyl sliders on the sides of the house. And so
yeah, and anything vinyl should not have been installed there to begin with. That goes.
Like for like, I mean, so is there detailing that shows what windows are going where then?
There's.
Yeah, on the plans, the plans call out, that would really be the area to go to on the plans. The second sheet of my plans, it calls out what the size windows are going and what the original size of the windows was.
Is north up in your plan?
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say?
Is north up in your floor plan?
Oh, yes.
So
the front windows aren't double hung, they're cased at least one.
yeah, number 4, which is the only one we saw in the historic, which looks like a double hung.
And right now they've got a
Casement.
They've got a single, well, right now there's a single, this whole thing about ingress egress, and yet they've got probably a single hung, maybe a double hung vinyl in front that's shorter than the opener.
Oh.
So.
You just know this because you visited.
I went there.
Okay, see, we don't.
And
Don't have
so that window is, so you can see what it's like now. And it's like what's in there now is a vinyl window that's not even as tall as what's there. So why?
Yeah. And so one window we can see.
Yeah.
we have documentation on, so at least that one should be, you're saying that one should be a double hung.
One on the porch too.
I think this one says it's a casement.
It says casement.
2 is also a casement. I see that.
To casement and.
As part of this work that was out of compliance was where you had keynote 3 or like a filled in opening, was that done as part of that work, or was that done a long time ago?
Oh, that is okay. So that, what that is, there was a door there, but the owner filled it in. So he's intending to stucco it. So I reflected that. So we're not replacing that door with anything. It's just going away. It's going to get filled in.
Okay,
And that detail only applies to a door. It doesn't really apply to any windows.
understood, but that was done as part of this, that door was there and then filled in as part of this non-compliant work, is that right?
Oh, I don't believe so. No, I believe he had done that before.
Oh. Okay.
I believe so. Let's see, that door on the front. What does it have there? Oh, it has, shit, I don't have, pictures in front of me. So if it has plywood on it, it may
Yeah,
have been done.
Indentation there where the door is.
What are you looking at?
Where it's saying that there's.
Oh, is that the?
Yeah.
That's the one
It's the
picture
farm,
we had.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I still see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, what
So-
it was is the homeowner hired a guy to draw plans to get these windows. And the guy went he drew some plans, but he never got them done. Or when it came, well, actually he did get them. Yeah, they were questionable in their doneness. I actually had to pick up off those plans, and I went to the house and measured myself and kind of compared what I measured to his plans and made the corrections I need to make to make my plans reflect what's actually there. His plans were pretty good. They were off a little bit. He did actually make a submittal, but then he never followed up with it. And when the homeowner couldn't get a hold of him, he called me and I picked up on the project. And the one thing I noticed on his plans is it showed that there was a door that had existed that had been filled in. And so I reflected that on my plans. Now, I don't know that that was done as part of when he filled the windows in with those units that we have to take back out. That's just what I picked up on from the previous set of plans.
Do you
Okay.
know how long ago that window work was done? Was that pretty recent?
Yeah, roughly, I would have to say it would have been at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, 2023, because let's see, the original submittal was in April of this year, and I had to draw the plans. I took a few weeks probably from the time he first called me. So yeah, I don't know exactly, but I would say that he had that work done because he didn't call me too long after. When he first called me at the beginning of this year, around, maybe February or March, he said, he put these windows on and then the neighbor called on him. He had a sharp cookie for a neighbor who didn't like what he was doing, and she notified him, the city. And so it couldn't have been too long before that, because I know he kind of wanted to get it going. Well, but hold on, because he hired a guy to draw the plans, and that guy went no show. So it's actually likely that this work was done probably mid to late last year. Because there's an intermittent period between when he illicitly installed those windows that didn't belong there and found out he had to get permitted because the neighbor called it in. And then he hired someone before me who did not follow up on the work. So that guy who did the original plans but never followed through is the intermittent period. So I would say, based on that, he had to have put those windows in sometime mid to late last year.
Oh, the door's still there.
The door is still there.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
What date is this?
So he may have done that then. He may have done the door at the same time, which would explain how the architect before me, the draftsman, might have known about it. So
2022.
Okay.
But it shows the vinyl windows, right? It's got the white window.
So we would need to make
that-
a decision on what we want to see opening, right?
Yeah.
If the door is indeed removed, then some evidence, or sometimes we do that like inset,
Yeah.
Or just have a door, but have it be a false door.
a false door. Yeah.
False door next to the real door.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's basically.
Okay, so just can I look at your floor plan for a second here, I see on the west elevation, there's like 17 and 18. You have 18 is a casement, but 17 is not used, and then I'm just curious what that component is in between. Is it like a wood post? Because sometimes we see that where these units are molded together. So I'm wondering, is that center mullion still present? And are you replacing 18 but not 17?
Let's see, 17, 18. Give me 1 second. Hey.
What's the code for square footage? Is
25?
So.
Oh, okay, you, are you there?
One window per bedroom.
Yeah, and it doesn't, there's a door in the living room, so he doesn't need
Over
to.
here.
Oh, okay, so, those windows 17 and 18, they're called out as two separate windows. It's actually one unit that does have that mullion in the middle. It has the mullion in the window in the middle, but it's one unit. And the reason why it says on the schedule that one of them is not used is because of the numbers 17 and 18. The one that is used describes the size of them both.
Yeah.
So to reiterate it on the other one would be redundant. It was mistakenly called out as two separate units when it's actually one with a separating mullion.
But how do we know that, and how do we review that? Do you have elevations of all of these windows?
I have photos of all of the existing windows. Do I need to get those to you?
That would be helpful.
Probably, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Then if that's the case, let's see, if that's the case, I'll have to get on my email, get into my images and grab up all those photos and email them. So are we looking at probably do I have to be rescheduled for approval?
I don't, if we can do it now, that's fine, right? Is that better? It's just a little hard for us to evaluate, but if you want to email us, pull it up, what do you think?
Okay, let's see here. It might take me a minute. So while I'm doing that, I don't want to keep you guys holding. It could take me like 5 minutes to get it all done.
Well, Jody would have to upload and would have to show us. So, everybody want to do that? They're okay with that?
Sorry, you're breaking up. What was that?
I said, do you want to wait? Because Jody will have to show those for us, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and they have to get to her, and so I guess we can move along, but we'll have to, is that all right, Jody? Can we move on to something else while he's doing this?
So we have been dealing with this since 2021.
Well, it's the first we've seen it.
Yes.
What?
We come through, but this foundation has been on since 2021.
Okay.
But so have them send the pictures and look at it with all the information.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything we want to, if we are continuing this? I mean, I'm just looking at these elevations, I see maybe double hung, it looks like sliders, it's just really hard to evaluate.
Yeah.
But also, there's not evidence of what was there before, so what do we compare it to? We just have to trust that it was.
Well, we know they weren't sliders.
We know they weren't sliders, I mean, that
Yeah.
bathroom one and this west elevation
I
looks like a
think
slider.
you need to look more carefully at the dimensions and what the rooms are to know, does it really warrant a casement or not? Like Jody said, the bedroom's got a door right there. Or the living room, family room,
Yeah, and then in the bedroom, you could do that. If it's an egress issue, you could do the one on the side rather than the one in front.
Yeah.
So I mean, so there's a little discernment that goes on there with.
Oh, I should probably interject something at this point. Can you all hear me fine?
Yeah,
Okay, so based on what I just heard you talking about, something occurs to me. When I went out to the site and took my pictures, which I have, and I'll be happy to email them all to you, the vinyl windows, which were not supposed to be installed, were already there. And I can only assume that his workmen have ditched the other windows, or if they didn't break them and they probably broke them and busted them getting them out, or if they didn't, who knows? Sometimes workmen take them home. He said, "Hey, you guys want some free windows? There you go." So the ones that what would have to be the only way that I could tell you that we're going to replace the original windows the way they were is that the ones that there's no evidence that they're there anymore because he replaced them with vinyl, we would simply, my way of going about it would be to look at the windows that are adjacent, that are historic, that are still there, and match the style. So there shouldn't be radically different size window lights from window to window. You know, one window that has a 12-inch by 16-inch lights times so many of them, the next window should not have 2-foot square lights by so many, you know, it should match. But that would be the best that I would be able to offer because of the circumstances. So I thought I should probably address that because I heard you guys asking about that. So, yeah.
I think you have it down in terms of, you know, trying to let the building inform as well as possible, and then
The photos would be helpful because we can see the original openings. I doubt from just what we saw in the front and knowing what's the path of least resistance that he made openings bigger, that probably he did what he did in the front. If anything, he either filled it or he used plywood to make up the difference. So this would be helpful.
So the openings where he put the vinyl windows where you see plywood is where he actually tried to put smaller windows than what were actually there.
Got it.
There's no circumstance I'm familiar with where he saw cut the wall to make a bigger opening, because that would of course be a problem. That would get you into structural headers and everything, and none of that went on. But what he did is he tried to force fit custom sizes into windows that were not. He tried to force fit existing off-the-shelf sizes into openings that were customs. So what he did is he stuck
that's why we're just asking for pictures of the openings, because I think it's a lot.
Very good. Very good. Then I'll get those to you in the interest of not holding you up. That's why I suggested if you folks want to move on while I'm doing that. And of course, I'll be on the chat the whole time. It could take me 5 minutes to get them over to you, and I need the email.
Brent, you're our last case of the day, so we are literally just waiting on you. So we can discuss your opening if you just want to work on sending those right now, okay?
That's not true.
Okay.
We have a lot of other stuff we have to deal with before the meeting's over. We don't have any other cases. But it would be nice to not drag on this meeting any longer than we need to by moving on to something else. We can do that.
Well, we still have to talk about the door opening, Terry.
No. When he comes back, we can pick up that case. Is that possible? Because Joe has to receive the information and then show it, right?
we just move it to them.
So just move it to the next meeting?
Yes.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying on 4 and 5, get that over with, back to 3B. Can we do that or not?
And move to
Jody?
That's your prerogative. I would just note that you're pausing this for the record.
Okay, fine. Let's just do that. He can ready.
Or you can continue it.
Well, we can see if we can get it done, because so that we help him through this process, if it's possible, if that's enough information. Is that your pleasure, PRS? To wait to see if we can do it?
I'd say let's see if we can get the information and finish it today.
Okay, let's do that.
We can just go ahead with some other items if it's only going to take him 5 or 10 minutes, we can get through a lot of the other items and then.
Okay, I'm gonna say we're sitting at 2 p.m. Okay, and let's move on to item 4. Task Force on Inclusivity Report
Oh,
Recommendation.
could you give me the email I need to send them to?
Brett, you can send it to me. Do you still have my email address?
Oh, it's the emails I've been receiving from you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, Jody, I'll get them right over.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Okay, back to item 4. 4A is discussion on best practices for naming of city and county owned physical assets. There's no report. Okay, item 5, current issues for information discussion, minor reviews. Michael?
Yes, Madam Chair, the last time we had 3 minor review on site. One at 510 East 18th Street for a window, fence and gate. These 3 reviews needed with Joe, if he can give you an update.
Joel, are you there?
Joel, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. No, I'm not unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. So at 510 East 18th in Armory Park, we did talk about windows that were going in the front and then what was obviously a closed-in porch, and also some fencing. We talked about many things, the fencing option too. So in terms of the windows, we gave, I think, if I recall right, Michael, we gave him options because he didn't have any pictures of the actual windows, and we're going to further review that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. And then
The photos of the window have been sent, and the design for the fence has also been submitted, and the decision has been made on those window, fence, and gates.
yes. So that's the extent of what I think also. So
The next one was at 420 East 4th Street for a fence in West University.
yeah, this was a review for a fence. There's a basalt rock fence that was lower, with also an old-fashioned gate, one of those very pretty sort of gates that had 4 gate stanchions that had 4 I don't know, I'm having one. It would have 4 stanchions up the side with a pretty cap on it that needs to be left in place when they put in the new wrought iron fence that's going in. And the issue was we did not want the wrought iron fence to connect to the basalt rock, so we gave a couple of options in terms of getting it cantilevered over the rock, and not actually then connect to the basalt rock itself. Yeah, so I think he would, I forgot exactly, Michael, which one he took, but we gave him a couple of options to do that. But he had to leave the gate stanchions in place.
And the last one was at 308 East 2nd Street for a roof.
Yeah, and that was a roof. It's a simple choice of shingle design and shingle cover, and real simple. Actually, the owner of the house is well versed in historical matters, and he chose the proper shingle, proper color, and we approved it.
So those were the 3 that we did last time. For right now, I have like about 5 pending minor reviews, which I will ask for volunteers. First one, 705 North 7th Avenue, which will be for a fence, West University. All these they're all in West University. And I have 603 North 10th Avenue for solar panel. I have 548 East Speedway for a wall sign. I have 221 East 6th Street, another wall side. Then I have 528 East 4th Street for a roof. Asking for volunteers that are on Zoom, in person, however you're comfortable.
And Michael, this Joe, I can volunteer for whichever ones you can't get filled. Be fine. If they're in West University, easy enough.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Jim. I will get in touch with you.
All right.
Thank you. Okay. 5B is appeals. Michael?
We do not have any that has been filed to the best of our knowledge.
Okay, item 5C is zoning violations.
We'll continue to work on cases. You are reviewing one now, which is actually one of the zoning violation cases.
Okay, item 5D, review process issues.
I don't have any.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Item 6, summary of public comments. Were any public comments submitted by the deadline?
We did not receive any.
Okay. You want to tell us what's up for the next meetings?
For the 11th, we'll have a project from Armory Park and a project from one from Fort Lowell is the one that you saw before. It's 5301 East Fort Lowell. Got remanded back. We had a lot of issues with it. Anyways, so
But that's not the one that was appealed or anything, right?
no, it's next door. To the one.
Isn't it owned by the same guy?
No, different people.
Oh, the
Okay.
one with the really terrible.
Oh, it was.
Things changed.
The annotated.
And then somebody was calling in who didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's hired somebody.
Oh.
Okay, so it's better.
Okay, so, all right, so how is our 3A applicant doing? Did he send you the thing, Jody?
Let's see.
I guess, I know it was an oversight, it didn't say it was a zoning violation, but if it is a zoning violation, some it shows what's going on, because if I hadn't walked out there, and, like, oh, that's not like that photo, oh.
Can you all see my screen with the photos of the house?
I can.
You cannot?
I
Yes.
can. Yes.
Yes.
All right, is the applicant on?
Brett,
Yeah.
she said,
Yeah, he's
so here's the first group that he sent. Brett, are you there?
Yep, I can hear you. I'm sending the last one through right now.
He's on his phone. So I don't know what you can see.
What? Front door.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have the little arched. Like I found on the street view, if you look from the side door has like a 4-light window. That's really nice.
So this is the one, let's see. Okay. What's a 4? You want me to put it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right, I'm gonna, at the request of Ricky, I'm gonna forward these emails to you guys. So you can flip through as you want. Give me a minute.
Oh, just want to let you know, I have sent all of them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Email. There's a second.
Every single one now. Did you get it already? I
got
got
the
one,
first
yeah.
set.
I just sent out the second one.
First one.
Okay, so what is our plan here?
Jody sent us the pictures to our email so that we can flip through them, because there's kind of a lot.
But here's so I've sent out, there are 1, 2, 3,
There's 15.
four emails total.
And you don't have those on your screen?
I have them on my screen, but apparently I'm not.
Okay, does somebody want to walk us through these if we're looking at our emails? Because I can't leave these on my machine very long. It'll blow it up. Okay.
So
I think Jody's trying to share them again.
Okay.
So how many emails?
Four. It's a little bit awkward, just the way the screen is set up to share because I'm on email. So here's some of the photos that he sent.
So is that existing or was that before? Have these been left in place or?
What that one Savannah was asking about?
These casement windows.
Yeah, what is that? Are those original?
So are those still there or have
Those-
they been replaced?
No, that looks like steel. No, it doesn't.
Those
Looks like
are
wood.
steel. Those are,
They just have a really thin.
So they were casement. Hey, those long
Wow.
inches, it's kind of weird.
So those are no longer there?
I can't tell if that's,
Brent, how old are these photos?
Oh, those photos are, well, I didn't take them current, but they reflect what's current. There's been no changes on the house since they were taken, but they were taken, I would, January, February, March, April of this year, but the house has been in limbo,
so is
so
that
they're
the-
current.
I can't tell where we are. Is this west elevation?
Oh, well, yeah, because I didn't really label them in the interest of getting them over. What I might have to do now, I can label them, but it's gonna, we might want to set it up for another meeting for that.
Is the air conditioning unit on the east or west side of the house?
That AC, well, I can tell you this, the west side of the house is in the sun in those photos, and the east side is in the shade. And the back is identifiable by
This is the east
a
side?
step-up porch on the right. So when you're looking at the back, there's a step-up little porch on the right. And when you're looking at the sides of the house, the west will be in the sun, the east will be in the shade. I can offer you that, but I realize it would have been more ideal ideal for each photo to be labeled, which I can do,
I
but
think,
that's like a
think we
30-minute
need,
endeavor.
Brent, we need accurate elevations paired with photos.
Okay, so you want more detail on the elevations?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the west elevation, and we're matching like for like. I see if I'm looking at the right spot, I see a 2-light window, and in the photo I'm looking at, I'm seeing a 1, 2, 3, like a 6-panel divided light window. Like they're just not matching.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at that, which means we're no doubt gonna be another meeting, because then what I have to do is once I change the whatever, I have to look at it if I need to make changes. I don't know about changes, but obviously clarification.
I think changes. I see a lot of discrepancies. Even the window next to it is a shorter window with a sill, and that's not at all represented on the elevation. And then if there's material left over, if there's wood framing that's gonna remain after the new one is installed, that's important for us to know as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. So in that case, what do we need to do as far as scheduling it out?
That's Brent, you'll need to, they're gonna make a motion, and in their motion, they're gonna tell you what they wanna see. And then once you submit that information, then we will schedule you for the next hearing that's available.
Okay, very good. So you guys are gonna email me.
Well, they're gonna make a motion, so don't go anywhere, because you probably wanna listen to what their motion is.
Oh, okay, I get it.
And I have just a clarifying question, Brent. This, what I think is the west elevation with the windows Savannah was talking about, and the AC unit. Is that, I'm kind of guessing that's not actually what it looks like right now. So, and if you could be clear when you resubmit, if you have pictures that represent what was there, that's great.
No, he said that this is what represents. He said that this has.
There were vinyl windows on the west side too, so maybe this is just the back part of it, or.
Yeah, what are,
So I'm gonna guess that this was like.
Like this is the elevation, and this is what I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there are
And that
vinyl
one's
windows,
supposed to be
there are vinyl
16
windows
I
there,
think.
so that's why I'm saying,
There are vinyl windows, you know.
I'm pretty sure when I looked down that side, there were vinyl windows, so.
Yeah, I was looking at the
Swish and. So, to be clear, what's there, and if you have photos like this, if it's not what's there, still submit them so we know that. But be
Okay,
clear
so yeah, what
what's
I'll
there.
do is I'll go to the homeowner and ask him if he has photos from before I don't know if he would, but if he does, I'll tell him, send those to me. So I'll definitely look into that as well.
I'm looking at Google Street View, I can't see that elevation at all. I see sill right there.
Pretty sure I looked down both sides and there were vinyl down both sides.
Unless this is the east.
I don't know if we have a
Doesn't
picture
change.
of the east. Yeah, I know we did
East
the
side.
west.
We'd be able to tell.
She's looking, so these are pictures of before they were replaced.
Great.
So that's good. So Brent, some of the pictures you sent us look like they're before the work was done.
Yeah, so, well, the thing is, those pictures should all have been taken at the same time. They pretty much were. I mean, I know that. But the thing is, though, some windows were not replaced. So some windows, oh, well, I see what you're saying. So what it is not that I see what you're saying. The pictures were all taken at the same time, but what you're alluding to is like some of the windows have not been replaced with those ugly white vinyl ones yet. So the pictures,
This is.
Right, and some of them have, right. See, the neighbor who called it in
Yeah.
must have interrupted him halfway. So he got the windows halfway done and so thank goodness, because that's the only way we know what's there.
Yeah. That's the
Well,
neighbor.
that's terrible.
I know.
But then if I-
So he sent pictures,
Yeah.
obviously, at different times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so have we agreed that we will go ahead and continue this and he will match elevations and do all that and come back? Have we
Yeah.
agreed to that? Okay, then let's have someone make a motion to that effect.
Brent, can you also get us a picture of that door that's been filled in?
I think the door's still
Yep,
there.
I'll make sure you guys get it.
Okay.
Do we
It
wanna
might be, it might be in one of those photos. I was in a hurry when I sent them, so I don't know for sure. I imagine it is in one of those photos. I don't know how clear it shows, but the thing is, as long as I'm going back and doing this, when I send the photos, I'll label each one. So yeah, you'll have that picture. I'll make sure you do.
Okay,
So this looks like that window, you know, we just saw the original
Oh.
windows on that one side. This looks like the same shot, but that they took them out and that's
Yeah.
the ugly one
That's
they
the
put in.
replacement, yeah.
Yeah, and that's too bad. I mean, at least we
Oh,
got the
now
picture.
here's the thing
Because
too.
there's the unit.
Let's see the wood
I
cells.
went out there. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I went out there in
That was funny.
April of this year and took my own photos. But when the homeowner hired me, I believe he sent me some, and I have all of those photos saved in my job file, and I don't have them labeled as to which ones I took or he took, but I'll be able to figure it out when I look at them, when I sit down and look at them. There actually might be some there that the homeowner took that I didn't. But one thing's for sure, no work has been done on that house since those photos were taken.
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and get a motion.
Yeah, I mean, not just 100 photos that are labeled,
Yeah.
right? That are.
Before and after.
I just mean like,
Yeah.
some sheet that has all the photos on it. Yeah, east, west elevations, right? It's just so hard to go through each photo, even if it is labeled.
And keep to the window schedule.
Yeah. What's that? Do you want me to do it?
Please, please, really, yeah, having a
I can do
time.
it.
Go ahead.
Well, just to reiterate, we'll continue the project, once we have revised elevations with keyed photos for each elevation.
Before and after. To the extent they-
And then should I say anything about, what's proposed in terms of double
Type
height?
of window, yeah.
Yeah, and also to schedule as soon as possible, but not put any date on there. Is that okay?
Yep, that works, because that way, what I'll do is I'll make the changes I have to make on the plans, get the photos in order. I'll have the photos so that each photo will say, this is, front or this side or that side or rear, and I'll have them dated as to when the photos were taken. And so, yeah, that'll give me time to get the plans revised and get the photos in order, and then I will, now when I go to resubmit it, well, I'll just look at my original submittal.
Yeah, let's hold on while we're in the middle of, I'm trying to get this motion made now for like 20 minutes. And so then Jody will tell you what the next steps are.
I
Okay, so
have one
Anna,
kind of question in the scheme of what we've been talking about. It's relatively minor, but in the submittal, you said you were gonna be doing clad wood windows, but you're saying now they're gonna be just wood?
Yeah, those vinyl windows should have never been put in there. The original ones that are, yeah.
Now, are you doing wood or are you doing aluminum clad wood? So submittal said one, you said another.
Oh, no, they'll be wood, because the aluminum clad is just not, that's just not with
Yep.
historic keeping. They didn't
Right.
have that when they put those windows, yeah.
And what about the door? Do you want to say anything about the door?
Yeah, I think it's back with well, two things, the front door. And the door that's supposedly been removed or they want to remove.
Oh, yeah.
So 2 doors?
Yeah, basically plans for both doors that are historically accurate or treated the house. I guess Savannah brought up a picture of that one door.
Yeah, you can see it in the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's that was taken?
2022.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'll include that. Okay, so on the matter of SD 0923-00099 at 728 4th Street, I move to recommend continuation of the project with the following notes and comments. That the applicant return with revised and corrected elevations with key before and after photos as available for each of the window openings. With a proposal to match the operation type, such as putting back double hung where it appears to have existed originally. And then provide historically accurate proposal for the 2 front entry doors.
Great, thank you.
This is Ricky, I'll second.
Okay, is there discussion? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and vote. Savannah,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Ricky,
Aye.
Jan,
Aye.
Terry, aye. It's passes 6-0. Okay, Jody, do you want to tell him what the next steps are, please?
Excuse me, Brent, once you have everything put together, you're gonna have to submit it via TDC online. Under the SD number. And then just shoot me an email to let me know once you've submitted it. And we'll review it, and if everything's good, we'll docket you on the next available agenda.
That sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right,
Okay,
thanks y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, I think we got through everything, right? We got through item 7, the Armory Park and school projects that we'll be hearing next.
Correct.
Okay, any other future agenda items that anyone wants to bring up?
Well, no, activate El Presidio and
The 2
This one.
continued cases today.
Okay, but those, don't know when they'll be ready, right?
no, we don't.
And they won't necessarily be ready by the 11th, if landscapes has to meet, but they could be. So anyway,
Yeah, I have an email out already to Steve, so, or Stefan, as they like to call him.
but I think he's Steve, and I think that that's just weird that they call him Stefan. Anyway, he never called that. Yeah. Anyway, I will wish you all a happy new year and thanks a lot. And is everyone going to be on the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks,
happy
Sarah.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.